what age is
It could be young
the
as 6.
trafficking?
I
Oh
have
my
twins that
gosh.
age.
And then how old do they kind of not,
Well, they like
traffic?
them in between 12 to 24 when they're young. Because you have to think, the ones that are demanding the supply, which are known as Johns, buyers, tricks, they're the ones that want to fulfill the fantasies of having young children. It's sickening. Think about it. Role playing. I want you to be the little girl and I want you to call me daddy. That's a sick mind. It's a sick mind. But in order to stop and end human trafficking, you have to go after the prostitute, the child victim, not the child victim in a sense of consequence in them, but if we can stop the supply and the demand, that means everybody has to partake, not just the survivors and the victims. What about the pimps, the traffickers, the buyers? What about
The buyers?
the dark web, the black market? We don't even talk about the black market. They can be sold. You can sell guns, you can sell drugs, you can sell children, you can sell women, you can sell sex. It doesn't matter because it's not traceable. So where's all the federal funding really going to? We have Human Trafficking Awareness Month, but let's break it down. Where's the finances going to really end modern day slavery? Because that's exactly what it is. You're slaving me to do something that I can do. I'm being beaten because I don't want to do something. I'm being starved. My basic needs are being stripped from me just so I can be exploited sexually or sleep with X amount of men to make your quota. And if I don't, I get beaten up to submission. So many women and children die because of torture, because of abuse. When are we going to say enough is enough? When is enough enough? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. 30,000 victims are sexually trafficked and die each year from abuse, disease, torture, and neglect. When is enough enough? Is it ever going to be enough? Are we going to say, well, we don't have the funding to pay people to sit on the dark web? Well, you've got Interpol that's able to sit there and detect child pornography. Well, what about the rest? We just say forget it because they're not children? How is that fair? If I got the proper help, I wouldn't have went back. Go back because the lack of resources, the lack of help. Human trafficking was not as big as it is now when I was doing it. There was no help. It was like, oh, well, you're a prostitute. Okay, so what? You deserve what you get. A child does not wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to run away and become a prostitute for a pimp. I want to be abused mentally, physically, sexually, emotionally. It doesn't happen. And let's not talk about the scars that we have to live with for the rest of our life. How does a person like myself that went through the things that I've gone through escape their prison? And not a prison of 4 walls and a guard. Your internal, your mental prison. Thankfully, I had my encounter with God. And I will never stop sharing it. Because had it not been for God, I probably would have ended up dead or heavily on drugs. But God had a purpose. And because he met me where he met me, even though I was homeless and I had to humble myself and I had to go through some struggles, but it's those struggles that allow me to overcome. I tell people I've overcome sex trafficking. I've overcome prostitution. I've overcome homelessness. I've overcome the trauma that I've gone through. Most girls don't make it after a couple years. You're done. You give up. 10 years 16 to 26, I should be dead. But I'm not. I'm here to tell the story because I don't know who's listening. I don't know
Yeah.
who needs to be educated on awareness. I don't know how it could help somebody. Because if I could have someone to help me when I was going through the things that I went through, probably could have saved a whole bunch of time. But everything happens for God's purpose. Not my purpose, his purpose. And we need to not just sweep it under the carpet and think that it's going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to go away on its own. And I'm not saying that everybody has to believe in the Lord. Everybody's different. But let's not walk away from, when you know something is wrong, don't walk away. 9
Mm-hmm.
times out of 10 is because it's wrong. 9 times out of 10 is because that person is being pimped, trafficked, sold, or it's an organized crime. And yeah, I get you have to be careful. But what if it was your daughter, your wife, your auntie, your cousin? And another thing, a lot of people, a lot of people get things mixed up is that they think that, no, Juliana, they think that a pimp or a person that's trafficked is always a man. Your daughter or a victim can go to school and be trafficked through a teacher, be trafficked through your peers. And 9 times out of 10, they get smarter. When a person sees a woman, they're going to trust a woman more so than a man. So a woman that's been in that
Mm-hmm.
life, brainwashed, trained, go and recruit, it's a lot easier for them to trust a woman than it is to a man. Because you can
Mm-hmm.
finesse them. You can easily talk
Mm-hmm.
them into it. Or how about your daughter's high school friends? Hey girl, I got this guy. Yeah, he's giving me Louis Vuittons and look at the Cardi B's or
Mm-hmm.
the ones that want to be like Nicki Minaj. Sexualized. They
Mm-hmm.
children only do what they want to see. We have to explain to them, teach them, and also protect them, but not be too protective. Um,
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm over here and I'm being silent because I just want to hear every word and I want everyone else to hear every word. So I want to be very, um, you very sensitive to what you're saying. And so I really appreciate you. And guys, we have with us tonight Jessica Johnson, and she is a overcomer. She's a overcomer of human trafficking, and God has brought her out. She was 16 years old when she began her journey back to God, and we're just so proud of her, and we're honored to have her with us tonight. And so we're just listening because there's so much that she has to say, and we do not want to interrupt her at all. So you can
you know,
continue, Jessica.
I'm actually starting a nonprofit because I realized with a lot of these nonprofits, and I'm not trying to bash any of the nonprofits dealing with trafficking, but the truth is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've actually, I like to tell people, I have a PhD in human trafficking without school.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing to go to
Mm-hmm.
school, live it day out
Mm-hmm.
for years, and to be able to still be alive to tell your story. It took me a long time to be able to share my story because of the shame, the guilt, what people were going to think. But I come to the realization that talking about it has also been therapeutic to say, wow, I really, I've overcame
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm alive. Um, a lot of these, a lot of these nonprofits say they help. Some do, and some do it for the money. Unfortunately, we do live in a
Mm-hmm.
political world, and it is hard, when you got government. And what
Mm-hmm.
makes it hard is you got DAs and police officers and judges and high people and legislators that's actually partaking in human trafficking, as we know about, Epstein and all these things, people that got power and money. How do you go up against those people, right? We have a lot of domestic violence shelters here in Oregon. But when it comes to the victims of human trafficking, where do they go? They have nowhere to go. Okay, we've got the victims, we help victims, we got survivors, but what about the prevention? Let's before it gets to the surviving. And to me, I never liked the word survivor because I was surviving in the midst of me going through it. Each day was a survival. Am I going to live? Am I going to die? Am I going to live? Am I going to live? Am I going to die? To overcome means you've gotten out of it. You've been pulled out of the kingdom of darkness and into light, right? I'm reading all the paperwork and doing all this stuff to start a nonprofit, changing souls, because I want to be able to not just have a place for the women and the children, but like I said, let's talk to the Johns, the buyers, because 9 times out of 10, these men have pain and trauma, and taking the time to uproot their problems because they're so busy. Well, you're the buyer and you're buying sex and you're doing this. They're putting a bad name, right? You do. Yes, I get it. It's not right, but at the end of the day, we're all human. Men talk about their emotions. Men don't talk about them being raped. Men don't talk about their being molested. Men don't talk about these type of things, right? So we have a repeated cycle that happens. A lot of buyers do the things that they do because they have been sexually molested. They have been touched on, or their mothers have treated them a certain way where they have vengeance and anger to where they take it out towards women or children. It's not fair. I'm not saying that it's right, but if we're going to help and end it, Juliana, if we are going to end it, then we need to deal with all the participants of the lifestyle. Pimps do the things that they do because generational. Let's look at the Black community, right? Music is about girls shaking their behind and pimping and getting that money. When that's being distributed to our children, what do you think they're going to do? Exactly what they listen to, or what they see. Uncles, dads, cousins, homies, that's in this life, and they want to be cool and fit in, but yet there's an undermining factor behind it. We need to get to the root to all aspects. Why does a pimp do the things that they do? Why do he degrade the women? Why do Johns go and pick up prostitutes? Well, because they 98% of the time are Caucasian men. Men.
Let me ask you a question, Jessica. So you're saying that we should address every participant. So where does that begin? Does that begin once the person is arrested, that they are required to have some type of therapy, or where do you think it begins?
There's a more recognition book that's in prison, and only in prison. This is how I got help and delivered. My husband actually went to prison, got out, and he actually taught to sex offenders. And there's a book called How to Escape Your Prison. You can only receive this treatment in prison, but unfortunately, I didn't go to prison to be able to receive this treatment. My husband was my therapist. My husband was the one that asked me, well, what are you going to do when you can't prostitute anymore? What are you going to do when Craigslist goes away? As we all know, it went away due to the Craigslist killer. What are you going to do with these things, right? Well, you need treatment. Everybody deserves a chance in life. We all have pain. We all have trauma. I do believe that if we can give them a chance to heal and get to the root of it, then maybe there can be a chain of command in it. But we are too busy
Okay.
stigmatizing. I know a lot of people are going to get upset because it happens in my own board right now. Well, they get upset. Well, it's the John, it's the pimps, it's the traffickers. Okay, but they're humans too. They have pain too. I'm
Okay.
not agreeing with what they're doing is right, because I was 16 years old sleeping with a 40-something-year-old man. That's sex offender type of work. I get it. But why? What would drive a person to want to have sex with the child? What would drive a person to abuse the woman the way that the trafficker does? There's a reason
Mm-hmm.
behind it. I ran away because home wasn't right. But yet I lived in middle class.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a captain for American Airlines. Something's not right. How did you become trafficked if you lived in middle class? We have to think of
Mm-hmm.
the undermining factor. We have to get to the root of it. And that's why I'm going to start a nonprofit and facilities. One
Okay.
for the women, one for the children, one for the traffickers, one for the pimps. Because somebody's got to be able to talk to them without stigmatizing and judging and blaming all of this. Because as even
Mm-hmm.
an
Mm-hmm.
ex-prostitute, well, you're a prostitute, you deserve what you get. Well, no, nobody deserves the things that they go through. There's a reason. And in order to
No.
do that, we got to love them, accept them, and understand why.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to the why and then the how, because we know where it happens on the internet. Now let's get to, okay, where do we need to begin with this person so we can get them healed? Now, I understand if they choose not to get the proper help and they want to continue to commit the crime, then yes, by all means, consequence them through the law. That's why we have the law judicial system for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's give them a chance to make the right moral conditions to be able to get back into society. People are sick. I was sick too, emotionally, physically. I was sick because of hurt, pain. But when somebody can care enough for you to help you, then maybe we can make a change. Isn't this what it's about, to bring awareness and make a change? I've been through pimps. I've been through, a
Mm-hmm.
pimp, but I know the mentality of pimp. I know the mentality of
Mm-hmm.
having a John have their way with me. I've talked to them, whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
why not use somebody that lived that life, then understand it and understand the lingo to say, hey, look, why are you knocking the bitch? Why are you trying to get money
Mm-hmm.
from a hoe? You got to their level
Mm-hmm.
so they feel comfortable and trust you, and
Mm-hmm.
then hopefully they'll open up to, okay, well, my mama molested me, my mama didn't care, my mama sold me to whatever, whatever the situation is. Like I said, a kid does not wake up and say, well, I'm gonna go out here, I'm gonna be pimping on hoes. A little girl doesn't say, well, I'm gonna go
Mm-hmm.
up and become a prostitute. I'm gonna be a pimp.
You know, as you're speaking right now, I can just see the love of God in you because, for everything that you've gone through in your life, for you to have a heart for people who've hurt you and to try to understand why they do what they're doing is commendable. It's just, I can't even imagine, what you've gone through, and for you to have that type of heart. I pray that God gives you, what you dreaming of, to have that
it's
type
it's
of
it, it
facility.
has to be only God that allows me to do this, because to be honest, most
Hmm.
women or most victims cannot forgive. You need to stop. They cannot forgive their traffickers. They cannot.
Yeah,
I,
I
I mean,
can't
don't get me
imagine.
wrong. It did take me a while to, have to forgive my pimp, because he doesn't have, even though I wasn't with him, even though I wasn't with him, he still had a form of control over my mind. Fear,
Oh
fear,
yeah, I'm
right?
sure.
God says he does not give us a spirit of fear. But in order for certain things to happen, you have to go through things. You have to go through the test in order to be able to testify your testimony, because the Lord, what we overcome
Hmm.
the stop. We overcome the word of the lamb through our testimony, right? Paraphrasing it some. But in order for it to be a testimony, you have to go through some circumstances. I do what I went through, not for myself, but to share, because it's God's story that lives in me. He delivered me. He spoke to my bones. He called me by my name. And then when he had to tell me, well, you have to forgive your pimp. What? I'm not
I
doing
can't
that.
even imagine.
But you eventually, God will soften your heart and you will forgive, because you are a changed woman, and I am a changed woman. I am a daughter of the Most High. When I felt the love of God, then I knew what love, agape love, the sacrifice type of love that God gives us. He gave that to me, and then I was able to go love on his people. And then when he said to me, well, I'm going to give you training shores. When I tell you to start the nonprofit, you're going to start the nonprofit, but it's not just going to be for women and children. It's going to be for the Johns and the traffickers. What? Are you serious? But it's not me doing it. It's the Spirit of God that dwells in me that's able to come up with this intelligent wisdom, because my wisdom and God's wisdom is night and day.
Amen.
I'm still human.
Amen.
But
Amen.
God will give me these downloads. He's the one that's saying, no, I need you to do this because I've chosen you. You went through what you went through because it created the mantle that I have for you. People are not going to want to say, oh, well, how dare you talk about the pimps and the traffickers? Why would you do that? Da, 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 da. Well, then where's the love? We talk about love all the time. Well, why can't we love those that are broken, that are hurt? Jesus came and sat down with the sinners. He didn't come and sat down with people that are rich and famous and all of that. He came and sat with people like me.
But Jessica, they hurt little girls. They hurt
do not fight against flesh and blood. We fight against principalities of dark forces in heavenly realms. God doesn't like it, but he also can use a vessel to change it. I'm not saying what these pimps and what these Johns are doing is right, because I was part of that, being victimized. But how long are we going to sit in a corner and be victims instead of making a change? Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to be the vessel for God. Someone's got to got love on them. Yes, I could be angry. I could be mad. I could hate men. I should hate all black men. I should hate the black community because of what happened to me. But God softened my heart. He healed me, set me free, delivered me, and the fire of God touched me. That's why I'm able to do the things, and I'm able to talk about this, because of Jessica, because it is God that lives in me that says, I need you to go touch these people. Because think about it. How many nonprofits are really helping the Johns and the pimps? Or are they just throwing them in prison, locking them away? And they're suffering with their own pain, their own trauma. God does not have favorites. He's not going to say, well, I'm going to help you because you've been victimized, and not help them because they did horrible things to you. Well, look at Jesus. He went through a lot for us. We gotta have the mind of Christ, and it's not always easy. Yeah, I get crucified all the time. How can you think about the pimps?
Really?
How can you think about the traffickers? Okay, well then how can we think about the prostitutes? They grown, they're adults. They know the difference from right and wrong. They out there posting their own ads, selling their behinds. What's the difference? You're a child. You're forced. You're coerced. I get it. But the child grows up and makes the decision as an adult. A lot of these girls that's out here are doing it on OnlyFans so they can make money, extra money. Who's forcing them? And when God put it on my heart like that, he said, you was trafficked from 16 to 19, but from 19 to 26, who forced you? Tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, it is.
So we have both sides. I've been on all sides of the fence. Been a child victim, but then I also promoted myself. Am I going to go to jail for promoting myself? No, I'm just going to go to jail for prostitution. But I created the ads. I put myself out there. I treated it like a business, yes. But again, not every woman or person that's in this life is a victim. I'm just going to be honest. I lived every life of it in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't want to hear the truth. And the truth.
And you know what? We really appreciate you telling us the truth. And that's why God has you here with us tonight, because we don't hear this
They don't
side
want
of
to
it.
tell you this
We
side. They
don't.
just want to keep it where we're just victims. No, you're not just a victim. You're not just a, you was a victim.
Yeah.
You was a
Yeah.
victim. But you out here doing what you're doing. You taking sexual pictures. You out here doing it because what? Money is the root to all evil. You don't trust. Matthew
Wow.
chapter 6 verse 33 says what? Seek the kingdom first, and all his righteousness shall be added upon you. We're not seeking the kingdom. We're seeking the world. And then you wonder why you can't be married. You wonder why your kids get taken away. You get married when you have all this dysfunctional chaos because you're doing it your way and not God's way. And I had to learn. I had to humble myself. I don't think about going after. I don't care how my finances look. I'm not going after to sell nothing. Not a dream, not a picture, not nothing.
Wow. We getting some good comments, Jessica. We're getting some good comments here. You are strong, Jessica. You are strong. That's what they're saying. Thank you, sis. Teach, sis.
It's
Greetings. Oh, gosh. Have so many people watching you right now. They're just, oh, my good. Wisdom says you can and will overcome everything that may come your way. Praise God. Praise God. God is so good, Jessica. You know, I'm just like sitting here because I do, when I do interviews or even when I do the domestic violence, the human trafficking events, Lacotan Spirits is here. She said, you're being authentic. That's what it takes. And even whenever, let's say, I can't wait for you to speak insolent. Is it insolent? Sister Danielle. I think it's yeah. So we always hear the side, it's victims. And of course, we are here to bring awareness
right.
to human trafficking because there's so many young women and men who are being stolen right now, just
Missing.
taken
Let's think
off the
about
streets,
missing. Are they really
missing.
missing, or are they being taken to the underground of the dark web and the black market and being sold, and nobody could ever find them because they're lost in a virtual world?
So, Jessica, can you explain that to us? What is
So
that
the dark
about? The
web,
dark.
right, is pretty much like. So it's hold on, excuse me. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you need to chill. Can you be good girl, please? Um, the dark web is an internet, but it's hidden. You have to have the specific address to be able to get in there. It is like mixed in within the web. So you have to really know what you're doing and where you're going and who you're talking to. Connections. It's connection to the internet, but
Connection.
it's
Okay.
untraceable. That's why we're having a hard time breaking this human trafficking because it's on the dark web. It's sold in the black market. The black market, you could get anything. You could get kids, children. You can post ads. You can buy guns, drugs, whatever you want on the black market. It's just how it is. We're living in We're living in new generation of technology, right? We've always had the internet, but did we have the internet to this extent to where you could buy humans off of digital currency, digital currency, which is we know as cryptocurrency? And at the end of my life, It went from not being able to, you could put your credit card, prepaid credit card, right? Your green dot card or whatever, go to Walgreens, put X amount of money, pay for your posting. But it went from not using your credit card to having to put trade currencies to post an ad. So I don't really trust too much of the cryptocurrency because I also know the dark side of it. Not saying that it's all bad, but at the end of the day too, I also realize that we have to be careful in everything, right? There's good and there's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the deep web is an inaccessible area, website where they're pretty much clear from the government. Juliana, we're actually clear. She's
How
18
old is
months.
Juliana?
So it's the government where they're cleared from the government. It's not traceable from the police, from the FBI, from the CIA. It's inaccessible part of the web. So you really have to know what you're doing, who you're going. So what they do is it's extremely difficult to get access into it. So you have to really know these people connected. You have to know the address. You have to know how to get into it. So I took a couple notes on it because I really wanted to talk about the dark net because it's an address you can't just easily get into. Like you can type in www.google.com, www.bing.com. No, it's really in depth of the virtual world of what we call World Wide Web. So that is the easiest way to be trafficked in. And once you're there, there's literally people that got cameras on their victims, torturing them, beating them. People will pay for these sick things, and it's really sick, but it's reality, people. It's reality. And just like we have good, what makes people think that the devil is not going to use what is good for evil? There's two sides of the world, and the dark web people don't know about. The black market, you can like post naked pictures of children and have child pornography and sell it, and the police won't even know unless Interpol, which is a form where they go on the dark web and they do it, but only for child pornography. Well, if you could do it for child pornography, what about the traffickers that's selling children? You know a kid from an adult. So that's the problem that we have. Why are we not having fundings, or why are we not talking to legislators about funding people that are able to hack into things, to sit on the computer and watch for these things? Because 9 times out of 10, your kid's not missing. They're either trafficked sexually and you won't know where they at. They're in some type of facility or some type of home where you can't get access to. They're sold on the dark web, or they're already dead for organ harvesting. And that's just reality. It's harsh, but sometimes we have to be bold and be able to say, hey, look, this is what's going on in our own backyard. This isn't just in the Philippines or in Germany, or they want to make it legal. No, do you guys not understand what would happen if you guys make it legal? All kind of kids is going to be coming up missing. Then what?
So how do we prepare our kids, our children? What do we tell them about being out? Is there any
Well,
way to safeguard our children?
what I do is I tell my kids, I have a 10-year-old and I have twins that are 5, and of course Juliana, and of course I'm pregnant. But you tell your children within the age limit to where they can understand.
Okay.
You think that children are not listening, but people have to understand. I always tell this all the time. These children are not children. They're children in sense of height and reality. They're still childlike, but they understand, grasp a whole lot more than you think they do. They're children. Yes, you want to keep their innocence, but you don't want them to be too sheltered where they don't know what's going on in the world. I share with my son, hey, look, your mom was a prostitute. This is what happened. This is real life. This is why I do the work that I do. This has happened to mommy. I don't want it to happen to you. It's not just because it can happen to you. You got to be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. If it doesn't look right, seem right, don't go. But he also knows God too. So I cover and pray over my children. There's no 100%, and I hate saying I know it's light. there's no there's no there's no 100% way to protect your children from the dangers of the world. And I don't say that to be to say, I don't say it in a way to scare people, but this is reality. When our kids leave our home, we can't control what they do. I'm being honest. When they're in your household, your job is to teach them, discipline them, love them, give them the wisdom, things, talk to them about sex, talk to them about dangers of society, talk to them about drugs. People tell me, why do you talk to your kids about sex and drugs? My oldest son like that. Well, I'd rather him know from my source of my mouth what I've gone versus in the system or being victim and subjected to the world.
Yeah.
He kind of knows what to look out for. Friends are talking about my mom. He's come back to me and said it a couple of times, Mom, I see why you talk to me like this, because I know I get it. My friends are already having sex, and so they
That's
listen
good.
more
That's
than you
good.
think they do. God has made each generation smarter and more wise. We just have to take that authority as ambassadors and teach our children truthfully within the age bracket. Tell the kids, my twins, don't let anybody touch on your private parts. You don't do certain things. If they do, you come let mommy or daddy know. You within an age bracket. God will give you wisdom to talk to these children. And so you just have to give them awareness, like we give awareness to the world about drugs, sex trafficking, labor, organ harvesting. We bring awareness to the world. Well, why are we not doing the same thing with our children to prevent
You're right. You're right.
them from being victims or snatched? Be aware of your surroundings. When we go out, don't walk in front of your mommy. You stay close. I don't care if people always, I don't care if I have 5 kids, 6 kids. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, let's go. You got to have that order in your mind. Okay, when we go out, you know what kid is what. You know how your kid is. You need to keep an eye. Why you this? Don't do this. You stay close to mom. You got to for each other. You be the big brother. You have to have order. When you're out and about, because especially a woman that has multiple kids, distract the woman with using one kid so they could get the youngest kid. Snatch up that kid because they think that how are you going to maneuver all these children, right? That's their mindset, because they have the mindset. So if you're distracted by this child, then I could snatch up the youngest one. And what are you going to do? How are you going to come, right? That's their mentality. So you got to keep your children close, give them, educate them within age bracket, and just pray over your children that the Lord will protect them, and that the angels will watch over them, and that your children have enough wisdom that they truly have ears to hear to what you are saying, and can be in the world, but yet still be safe.
I was watching the other day. There was a commercial. It was a trailer for a movie,